when we have our normal board meeting, the second Tuesday of every month, except for August and December, and it's in a boardroom right down the hallway. Tonight, because of this topic and there was so much buzz about it, we decided to move it here to a bigger room, so that's what we're doing. Seattle Parks Department is here, and we'll hear from them as well as from you. But I would like to make sure everyone signs up on this. This is the way that the Parks Department will be able to get their information to you. And we at the Fauntleroy Community Association would like to make sure we get information from the neighborhood too. So has anyone not signed up? Okay. Make it over to one of the side tables, if you will. And I'd like to thank, because we have this wonderful big room, I'd like to thank Tuxedo and Tennis Shoes Catering for giving us. Not only are they supporting us, this evening, but all throughout the year, they just do so much for the FCA and the community. So we will have an agenda, which is roughly what that is up there. And we want to make sure we get through things pretty quick, because where you see that open commentary, that's what we want the meat of the meeting to be, the main part of it. But we have a lot of people here, and a lot of people have signed up and highlighted their name, indicating that they want to speak. So during that time, we'll have a timer running. You'll have 2 minutes, and we'll need to let you know what that is. So when you're up here, watch right over here. This is Mary Brennan, and Mary is with the West Seattle Early Birds Toastmasters group. And they always time the meetings. So on this, it works just like a stoplight. When the green light comes on, that means you've got 30 seconds left. The yellow light is 15 seconds. The red means you're done. And you've got a big bell. If you go past a few seconds past that, then you get the bell. And I'd like to introduce now our guests. To let you know who will be here for part of the meeting. Seattle Parks Department, Charles Ng is here, and if you could stand up for just a moment. And Rebecca Salinas. And they're with the Seattle Parks Department in the Partnership Division, so this is what they do. And from Go Ape, we have Chris Swallow. And I'd just like to introduce, for neighborly's sake, the Fauntleroy Community Association board members. I won't call everyone's name, but there are about 15 of us, and if you could raise your hand, and I'd like a round of applause for them. And that reminds us that we also have a wonderful newsletter that goes out quarterly, and Judy Pickens does that. And we have, there's Judy, wave. And that's a wonderful newsletter, and if you sign up for the FCA, you get that in your mailbox quarterly, and there's all kinds of information. It should be 8 or 10 pages of wonderful neighborhood news. And we have an FCA website called fauntleroy.net and FCA Facebook. And Irene Stewart, where's Irene? She is in charge of that. There she is over there. And if you want something to be on that, write to fcacommunications@gmail.com. Or just post it on there, and the word will get out. So. Now I would like to introduce Kim Petrum. She's one of our board members, and she has some words and some slides to show. There you are. Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, I got it. Let the Parks Department first go first. So, Charles Ng, if you could come up and, or maybe all of you? Yeah, okay. I'll get another mic.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Salinas, and I'm Partnerships Manager for Seattle Parks and Rec. And the Parks Department had hoped to accomplish a few things tonight, but I'm not sure if we're going to actually do that. One of the major agenda items we hope to achieve was to provide you with accurate information about what Go Ape is and what it isn't. But we've only been allotted 7 minutes, and in 7 minutes I don't think we're going to be able to do that. So I would encourage you to go to our website, our Seattle Parks website. We'll have all the information there. There will also be, right now we're looking at a potential public meeting on August 11th on Saturday at 11 o'clock at Lincoln Park. We will actually chalk out the area that we are considering. Is that we want all of you to get the accurate information. I know there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we'd like to present the facts, and then you can make your own decision. But there's been some things that I've seen on the web about cyclone fencing and zip lines all over the place, and
treetops. It's on a treetop.
So there'll be.
Excuse me, I need to interrupt for a minute. This is our board meeting, and I want it to be orderly or we're not going to do it. Is that okay? I want to have your comments to be heard very well, but if you're hollering when they're talking, none of the comments are heard. See, that's just the way it works. So, Rebecca already said we've given her 5 to 7 minutes. Let's give her 5 to 7 respectful minutes, hear what they have to say, and then get on with the show.
I want you to know there's no decision that's been made as yet. The reason we haven't come out to the public yet is because we've still been going through our own internal process for over a year, deciding if this is something that is feasible or desirable for the park. So we've had to do all of our internal processes, and any part of the way we could have said, no go, no go, no go. If we brought every potential project to the public, we'd spend hours doing public meetings that never resulted in anything, and for no purpose. So we are still going through our internal processes. We have not made a decision yet. We're looking at completing a SEPA checklist, which, as you know, is 100 questions that's trying to help determine the potential impacts on the park. We are still working with our naturalists, our natural resources unit, and there's still a number of questions that need to be asked, and we want to ask them. But we are interested in what you have to say, and there will be a public meeting because we've been asked by other people to please show us where it is, show us what it is, show it what it isn't, and let people make their own decision. There will also be a park board meeting in October where there will be an ad hoc committee that will hear public testimony. And that's another opportunity for you to come and testify to the park board directly. And you can also send emails to them. And then in November, they will be making a recommendation to the superintendent regarding whether to move forward with the project or not. So there is a couple of more public comments that you can make, more ways along the decision-making process for you to give input. So this isn't the only one tonight. And I'm going to give it to Charles to just very quickly go through how we got here, and then we'll listen to your testimony.
So there's really a couple of factors that really got us to this point. And all of us know about this. In 2008, as you know, the Great Recession started happening. You know, the parks department has gone through many, many reductions. So one of the things that Superintendent Gallagher says, what's going on here? Is it always about cuts? How can we be creative? What about raising money? Or what about really looking at emerging types of trends, be more proactive? Instead, we've been accused of being reactive. We're actually trying to say, what's out there? What could be out there that aligns with our core mission? And so what we did was intentionally form a partnership unit, go and look at those things. Those are the things that Rebecca and I are charged to do. But we created a partnership policy to address those concerns, because we don't want to just partner with anybody. There has to be somebody or some entity that aligns with our core mission of access, affordability, and also sustaining our natural environment. Those are the kind of key things that are in our policy. So before we leave tonight, I'm going to send all that links to our policy so people know how we at least entertain this idea. So So one of the things we also had was a partnership webpage. Okay, and the webpage was an expression of interest. And what that really means is, instead of a formal request for proposals, like, if you want to park in parks, what does that look like? So in that way, we become a little bit more nimble. So let's go and say, what are the possibilities instead of saying, what can't we do? Okay? And so we started getting some respondents from, companies like Go Ape, Forest Challenge, and there was one other called Civic Seattle, who wanted to send in a proposal, say, we would love to develop some high ropes course in your park system. Okay, so we got 3 proposals. We went through a process, a formal process of evaluating them, and of the 3, Go Ape was the one we felt that has the most capacity, and not just the resources, but the experience to actually develop these parks, and actually do it in a way that's environmentally friendly. And so, let me finish, please. So, this is the internal vetting. You know, we had our forester look at it, biologists look at it. So that's just phase 1. Now what we're entering into now is the public outreach part of it. So this is one of the groups. We all went to Camp Long Advisory Council. Next week we're going to Morgan Junction.
And just an FYI, so we needed to check out the impacts of this, and I've talked to directly 2 of the cities who have also had Go Ape constructed. Now there's high ropes courses all over. If you're not familiar, Bellevue has a high ropes course. There's some in other areas in and around San Juan Island has one. There's courses all over. We also have a low ropes course that will have some high elements as well in Camp Long already. So, and we were told by Leon Younger, who's an expert around the nation, he goes and consults with parks departments. He told us 3 years ago that this was coming. He said people want new ways of recreating, and part of them is they want to recreate up off the ground. And it's a new way of thinking. And so, sure enough, we started getting the proposals. I talked to people at Rock Creek, and they've had the high ropes course for 3 years. He, with Go Ape, and the gentleman I spoke to, Doug Ludwig, who is the park steward, it's an 1,800-acre park. He said that he was leery of it because that's his park, and that he can't. He says now I sound like I'm an employee for Go Ape because of the things that Go Ape. He said they were so impressed with Go Ape's environmental policies that actually Go Ape has come and 3 to 4 times a year organizes big volunteer work groups. They pull invasives. They do habitat restoration. They give free tickets to special populations, to youth camps, etc. And that he was really impressed with them. I also called the people in Virginia. I can't remember. I remember her last name is Brittle. I'll have to get her first name. Also spoke to her. They've just had the course open in the spring, and she said the exact same thing that they did. In fact, both of them said that their department directors talk about Go Ape as how public-private partnerships should work and often don't work. So with that, we decided, okay, it still sounds good. Let's keep moving forward. We haven't made a decision, but we're trying to do those kinds of due diligence activities before we make any commitment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Kim Petrum has a presentation. Kim is one of the board members for the Fauntleroy Community Association, and please welcome Kim Petrum.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending our Fauntleroy Community Association board meeting. We recognized 2 weeks ago when we learned about this proposal that we had to act quickly, as many of you in the room have also done. This is a presentation I'm going to give you with other people involved, but it is going to take about 18 to 20 minutes, and it is what we, the Fauntleroy Community Association, has found thus far and the concerns that we have. We did invite parks to come tonight, so we appreciate that, but this is not a formal parks event. This is a board meeting of your Fauntleroy Community Association. So just briefly a history of Lincoln Park, so we're all on the same page here. I'm sure many of you know that originally that park has been in existence for many, many years and was originally referred to by the original Fauntleroy community as Fauntleroy Park. 1922, the city purchased it in their, during their plans to create a citywide park distribution system. The Olmsted brothers were brought in to design the Seattle city parks, and Lincoln Park is one of those Olmsted brother designed parks. It's a treasure of the Fauntleroy community. You'll notice the seawalls, many of the larger shelters and the primary trails were developed by community members who were affected during the Depression in the 1930s and funded by the WPA. Those structures are still there to this day. And the park, of course, has been for habitat protection, serenity from city life. And the first shelter came in 1925, the first playground, not till 1930. And we all know about Coleman Pool, which was always a natural swimming pool. The Colemans generated funds to create a true pool in 1941. But this is what we do at the park today. We ride our bikes, we run and jog. Can you see these pictures from the back? We play baseball. We use the shelters with our corporations or families. We hang out with our friends. We might fish or enjoy the waterfront and what it has to offer us. Play frisbee, play on the toy structures, walk our dogs, contemplate. YMCA has multiple day camps in Lincoln Park. Oh, and by the way, we have a zip line already. And importantly to many people, it's a habitat for wildlife, specifically birds. Take a while to get through this. We have 5 points to cross, but the first one is habitat. We know that push disturbances alter the balance of ecology. We know that there's a loss of a natural sound envelope, and we know that there are sensitive, priority, and vulnerable species, including plants that are, removing a tree, regardless of its size, is an irreversible process that will never come back. This proposal concerns us about the habitat destruction, non-native encroachments that occur with natural habitat destruction, and possibly devaluing a sense that some things that seem small, like underbrush plant life, leaf litter, and root safety, are devalued in some way. And then the animals, our habitat, and the protection the canopy offers. We're worried about the wires. And again, let me be clear, we're operating on the information that we found in the last 2 weeks. Anyone here can Google that information and start finding it. This is what we've come up so far, and this is perspective of your Fauntleroy Community Association. So the zipline wires we're concerned about, especially animals that use echolocation. We're concerned about the loss of tree hollow roosting habitat, deadwood habitat, if brush is cleared. So I'm at this time going to ask Barbara Webster to join us. She's a master birder, and she's going to talk a little bit specifically about the birds in Lincoln Park.
How's this? Better? Okay. I'm Barbara Webster. I'm a resident of West Seattle, and my husband and I have birded in Lincoln Discovery Park for the past 8 years. We lead field trips for Seattle Audubon. We are avid birders, and we're graduates of Seattle Audubon's Master Birder program. I've been asked to speak this evening just to give you an idea briefly of what birds use Lincoln Park, how they use it, and why a zipline course in the middle of some of the most densely forested area of the park is a bad idea. I don't know how many of you saw the promotional video on the web. Did you guys see or hear any birds in that? Well, a little bit of bird song in the beginning, but after that, not a bird to be seen or heard. This could happen to that area. The zip line is proposed for the part of the typical northwest forest of the park. It's got a mix of native trees, western red cedar, Douglas fir, alder. You mix that with the natural brushy understory to have snags, and that's the kind of habitat that supports a lot of birds. And this section of the park has the highest number of breeding birds because this habitat's the best. In our years of birding the park, we kind of developed a route to go a little north of the parking lot, and then we go through the south section. And there's some mornings that we can spend 2 hours going through that little south section. And why? Because that's where the birds are. That's where we find the flycatchers and the warblers in the canopy. That's where we find the woodpeckers and the stags. That's where we find the wrens and the sparrows on the forest floor. They use that entire area of forest there. Our total species list for the park after these years is at 82. I know there's been more species that have passed through there, but on our list, over 35 of those species are regular nesters in the park. And at least 26 of them are permanent residents, while the others migrate hundreds and thousands of miles to set up there for their summer housekeeping. They need this forest for feeding, for breeding, raising their young, teaching their young how to survive. And most visible of these may be those large birds like the eagles or the barred owls. But there's also a lot of secretive and not so easy to see songbirds that they need forest survival too. The birds in this area use the range of the forest, the floor of the canopy, and also that deadwood with snags. In addition to the birds that breed in the park, we've seen another 20 that have come during migration. So this means these are birds that they travel, they stay in the park maybe 2 hours, maybe 2 days, and then they go on to where their breeding destinations are. But they need that place to rest and to feed. And when do we have the good weather in Seattle? I know that's a loaded question, but this time tends to be May, June, July. Well, that is the height of migration, and it's the height of when the breeding season is in full swing. And that's the worst time to actually be disturbing the birds. So I can see a potential conflict with that. So having people jumping, walking, screaming, and creating a lasting commotion in the forest canopy is not going to be helpful for the birds who need to use it for food, shelter, and survival. And this type of disturbance and altering of the natural environment will negatively impact the birds, and then ultimately it negatively impacts us too, because we go there to enjoy the birds and escape that civilization. So there's nothing wrong with wanting another form of outdoor entertainment, but it just needs to be in a different setting where the impact on the birds and the people isn't as much. It's just this is by saying it can go somewhere else, but this is a bad idea for the birds, a bad idea for Lincoln Park.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. So the next 4 components that we're going to break down all have to do with justice, perceived justices for the community, for the wildlife, and for the forestry, or perceived injustices and due process will be our first section here. Ideally, when any new idea comes along, there's due process that occurs. Design policies are determined and the infrastructure is facilitated, and there is some concern from the FCA that this is backwards this time, that due process didn't happen. We do know, based on information that's been gathered by the FCA and by many people in this room and by the West Seattle blog, which we would like to thank very much for their help in this process. know at this point or are fairly certain about that the Parks Department is violating current Seattle Parks and Public Involvement Policy, Urban Management and Wildlife Plan, and their Supplemental Use Management Guidelines. We're concerned as well that who we're actually speaking for when we talk about a park, specifically Lincoln Park, because we have voiceless people, which would include the animals in the forest, but also generations to come that aren't even born yet to be in this room. We also have concerns about the financial gain and the proposed reimbursement, and maybe the number being quoted between $65,000 and $75,000 a year is not sufficient. And as well, we have concerns for the process of the impact on the wildlife and the community. So I'd like to introduce Amanda Lee, who is on the board of the Community Association, to speak to this a little bit more specifically.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Salinas and Mr. Ng, for coming to our meeting tonight to hear from the board about our concerns and hear from the community as well. Among the many reasons why we believe Parks and Recreation should cease the planning process now for having a privately owned and operated ropes course or zipline canopy course are that, first of all, the process to date, we believe, is in direct violation of both the letter and the spirit of numerous parks policies. The project is fundamentally at odds with Parks and Recreation current strategic plan and the specific vegetation management plan and the use plans for Lincoln Park. And fundamentally, and more importantly, the project conflicts with the key purposes and goals identified for this park by this community, by the people who created it, and by the people who will enjoy it for generations to come. And I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. There are many examples, but here's a couple. One is that the Lincoln Park use guidelines provide that Lincoln Park is generally to be limited to informal drop-in activities. It is not, never was not designed to be a tourist attraction or a destination park for specific expensive recreational activities or privileged. Concession and vending policy for Lincoln Park limits all concessions to food vending, which there isn't any now, but if there was going to be a concession, it would be food vending. More importantly, the Parks Department Public Involvement Plan has specific guidelines that the Parks Department is supposed to follow when any major proposal is being considered. First, the policy provides that the department is to invite and encourage direct and public involvement in any planning effort, any proposal that would substantially modify the Secondly, the department is to provide early and thorough notification of the proposals for changing the park. The department is to invite the community's ideas for park activities rather than present a list of options or a proposal. I have looked at what's on the website. I've looked at the history of this company, Go Ape, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. And this process has been proceeding exactly backwards. The public has not been invited or encouraged to participate to date, and we've been working on it for over a year. The public and the community have not been provided early or thorough notification. In fact, we found out about it practically by accident. And the ideas of the community most certainly have not been solicited. Well, I think we also appreciate the issues related to the Parks Department revenue, that the expression of interest process that was pursued here by the partnerships program functionally opens back doors to for-profit companies to have secret meetings with the Parks Department and find something that's good for them. And that's demonstrated precisely by the fact that you considered 3 different proposals for zip lines and then let the company go around and pick which park it thought was best. I just want to say personally, but this company has earned a reputation all around the planet. And it doesn't take a lot of time on Google to find not just the websites with the promotional videos, but the websites that concerned citizens have set up to instruct communities like this one on what actions we will have to take to keep them out. And the reason people want to keep them out is because they have misrepresented what they will do in the park, and they have not fundamentally respected the environmental goals that matter to us. Finally, one last point. With respect to the pricing, you are sending exactly the wrong message to communities, to children, and to the disadvantaged. To pay $200 for a couple of hours on a private Brooks course is fundamentally at odds with what this park is about.
The next point we'd like to talk about is more specifically the environment. Washington State has a policy that I'll read for those that can't see it in the back. Environmental justice is the right to a safe, healthy, productive, and sustainable environment, where environment is considered in its totality to include the ecological, physical, social, political, aesthetic, and economic environment, noting that evidence suggests that there are some benefits associated with economic progress and changes in land use are not equitably distributed among the total population. And I'd like to introduce Treely Tucker to come speak to this more specifically. For those of you that don't know, Treely is a professor of, because it's so fancy, eco-psychology, natural history, and environmental justice at Seattle University.
I have to say, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to stand up here after I heard a whole room full of people applaud for the birds of Lincoln Park. And those of you who know me know what matters to me so much is the birds that I just love, and the baby birds I've watched grow up for years and years and years, and a threat to them just threatens my core. That, however, fortunately, Barbara has spoken very eloquently to that, so I'm going to actually focus on some thoughts about environmental justice. And the introduction that Kim just gave you, I think, sets a great framework for that. Sorry, I thought I had a couple more minutes, so I wasn't quite ready here. So, to me, where it starts is looking at what value green space and quiet green space has for all of us. Before I go any further, I want to start off by all the things I keep forgetting, which is, I think I can speak for so many people in this room when I say we would love to work with you, not in a conflictual relationship, but to help come up with wonderful, creative ideas for how we can work with you to make Lincoln Park accessible, natural, open to all, and a treasure for now and for future generations. So I'll give you my personal contact information to follow up. I would love to work with you. So back to the value of green space. It's clearly demonstrated through a lot of studies that urban noise, as you know, causes psychological problems, cognitive problems, sleep disorders, and emotional stresses. And therefore, it's also been demonstrated by social science studies that when people spend time in nature, older people, younger people, people of all ages and backgrounds and incomes, that stress gets reduced. This has been quantitatively shown. Access to green space, particularly quiet green space, heals. And we all are in need of that, no matter how we live. A survey of how Seattle residents use parks done in 2006 showed the top two are nature walks and hiking, and passive enjoyment like picnics. Much farther down the list is organized sports and more active engagement. We need these places because they're the few places that we have for this. For those of you who are familiar with the term environmental justice, you probably know that for most of its history, for the last few decades, it's focused on disproportionate exposure of people of different races or incomes and other characteristics to environmental toxins. So that's often what we think of when we think of environmental justice. The second wave of environmental justice, which some people call green environmental justice, is about access to nature and how sort of behind the scenes that often gets disproportionately allocated. And so it's been demonstrated that all people who live in, or in urban settings particularly, experience a strong relationship between physical health and emotional health and spiritual health and access to green spaces. But two of the subgroups who have been shown to benefit most from that access are the elderly and those of lower socioeconomic status. And those are the ones who can't use Go Ape facilities. So, up to the number of objections I have to this prospect, I think it's very clear that the benefits of the installation of this facility go to those who are wealthier and have the disposable income to take their kids for hundreds of dollars for a couple of hours, and those of greater physical ability. And the negative effects of noise and of decreased wildlife and decreased peacefulness in the park and restrictions to access and use of that site fall on all users. So I would like to call on the city to move toward greater environmental justice in the city of Stafford and our own neighborhood by keeping this facility out. Thank you.
Thank you for bear with us. We're almost to the end and you will have your chance to speak. But we would like to point out a few issues that specifically impact the community of Fauntleroy. And that has to do a little bit more with noise, litter safety, and parking. Noise just in general, there's going to be a loss of tranquility and noise pollution. We know that, and there seems to be some minimization of what's wrong with things just being quiet and having a place to go that's quiet. And we need some noise mitigation for neighbors that will have to be addressed. As well, litter, we've seen very little about that, but anyone who in this room has been to Lincoln Park on a Monday after a nice sunny weekend knows the devastation that the litter itself causes and the amount of resources it takes the staff to clean up. That the geese or my dog don't get to first. And then safety and security, meaning literally of the site and of the people when it's not running. We need to have some assurances about those issues specifically. Just to be clear though, if you go back to 8th grade in your anatomy class, the definition of sound is perceived by humans as an auditory sensation created by pressure variations that move in waves through mediums such as air or water, measured in terms of frequency and amplitude. That probably sounds vaguely familiar to most of us. But what the National Park Service helps us remember is that noise is sometimes used as a synonym for sound, but there is a difference. Noise is a sound that is unwanted or inappropriate in an environment. So we are worried that we'll lose the sound of the birds and the animals, and we'll gain the noise of a commercial endeavor. Studies suggest that acoustical environment is important in a number of ways for wildlife, including intra-species communication, territory establishment, finding and maintaining a desirable habitat that we see specifically in Lincoln Park, courtship and nurturing, and the issue of predators. Moving on to parking, which will impact many neighbors. We do have parking options for Lincoln Park. There are 2 lots, a north lot and a south lot. The alternative is to park in the community on the adjoining streets in front of the homes of the people that live here. We have ongoing concerns with pedestrian and bicycling safety. The FCA has a long history of working with the Department of Transportation trying to ensure pedestrian safety. And if we look at the statistics that we've gleaned so far from the parks and Go Ape, there's 4 to 5 car arrivals per apartment, and we see a little bit different statistics depending where you look, but ultimately what we're looking at is up to 750 to 800 people per weekend day. So they're saying that's not true, and we'll let you respond at the end if you'd like. But this is in the literature that's clearly posted that we found on simple Google searches. Over a week, usage could be as high as 3,700 people. So irregardless of whether those numbers are accurate or not, we know because Go Ape is a business, they want people to come. They're going to be in the canopy for 3 hours, and they're cycling multiple groups through on the half hour, so that we know there's going to be a parking issue. Even if we see the numbers. This is a caption on a nice sunny recent day of the north parking lot. Looking south, cars queued in the middle looking for a place to park. This is a normal weekend day. Here are cars queued at the north entrance of the North Park, waiting to get off of Fauntleroy. Again, here's another picture. And if you squint, you'll see a yellow car up there in the front of that queue line. And the reason that line is queued because the parkers, the person in the car is doing what we do. They're sitting there waiting for their coveted spot, backing traffic up, which we see on a normal basis, on a normal sunny weekend at Lincoln Park. This Volvo, the north parking lot, you enter from the north and you exit from the south of the lot. This Volvo is trying to enter. The SUV is trying to exit through the entrance. So they're juggling. The Volvo makes it through, the SUV pulls forward into the crosswalk, and the pedestrians struggle behind, trying not to get hit. SUV scoots a little bit further forward and now is trying not to hit the bike. And you can see the traffic in the lanes. It's just a crowded spot. This is where the traffic parks on the road. This is the north parking lot, the east side of the road. Those cars are parked in permitted parking spots, but it creates congestion and limited sight lines. This is the south parking lot on a recent sunny day. Here are cars trying to find a spot. Pedestrians mixed in with the cars trying to find a spot. This is the south exit of the south parking lot. Pedestrians and cyclists trying to navigate the sidewalk while the car is going to inch their way out. You can see the cars parked on the west side of the road there. They're in true parking spots, but the road is lined. So the access out of the park and the visibility is difficult to see. Here's another shot of the same viewpoint. Here's a car that turned left from that same spot. That white van was out, and he just went forward through oncoming traffic. And this is a line queued up waiting for someone to turn left into the south parking lot. People park in the community and search for places to park outside of the park. This is a street that's 2 blocks away from Lincoln Park. And just so you know, it's not just weekend days that are busy. This was taken this morning. So, I'm not trying to be offensive or gang up on you, but this is our meeting, and this is what we found on basic Google searches so far, and people in this room have found this information as well. What we know so far, based on public record, is that Go Ape particularly looks for large woodland areas near large towns and cities. They have an international footprint. And last year, founder Tristan Mayhew was quoted in a British publication as saying, his company can now roll out Go Ape courses in our sleep.
Oh.
What we've learned from other communities that have had concerns with these proposals is that there seems to be a pattern of the number of trees actually felled or higher than quotes. The planning process is underway way before the community is notified. You can read this. Ability to be persuasive. I like that one. We'll claim a small usage site but not count the airspace, and in any canopy endeavor there is airspace. Residents in most affected area are ignored or sidelined. These are on websites that any of you can find and search on your own. I'm not sure if you can, you're not going to skip this because you can't see the red line. Or Treely, can you help define this a little bit? This is the proposed site, but you'll see if she, just use your mouse, the acreage site anticipated within our park would be right where Truly is, circling the mouse. High-tech system. So finally, the FCA, like all issues that affect our community, would like to come down and have a position. We feel that we need to go through some sort of due process, and we're not sidelined in the process of that. It's difficult to take a position when we're operating with limited information, and we expect to get more of it, but so far this has been a strenuous process, to say the least. Claims of NIMBYism are inaccurate. This is not a case of NIMBYism. We expect to take a position on adding or altering features in the park, but the actions need to be consistent with city policies and procedures, and community input needs to be taken into account, of most importance. And we expect commercial venues to follow all procedures and protocols and due diligence that any other system would. So at this time, I'm going to introduce David Haggerty, who's the Vice President of the Fauntleroy Community Association, and he's going to be calling names and having people come up to start the process of comment. Please remember, this is not a parks community evening. They did not pull this together. It's the FCA that pulled this together, so you are commenting as a community member, and it sounds like there'll be a further opportunity later for you to speak officially to the Parks Department.
So this is how we're going to do the comment portion of the evening. We're going to do a 2-minute limit, but we've got a lot of people that wanted to make comments tonight. So I think what we'll do is, we've got the timer up here, thank you very much. And the timer turns green at 1:30 seconds. Start wrapping it up at that point, and if you can finish it up then, that would be great. We'd like to hear from everybody. If you feel like you agree with a lot that's already been said and you just want to come up here and say, I agree, thank you very much for what you said, FCA folks, say that, because we want to hear your voice and maybe give your 2 minutes to somebody else. What we're going to do, 6 people will be called up, and we'll ask that 3 go to each microphone, maybe stand right here and right over there by the water table, and then have 1 person at each microphone ready to go so we can speed up the process. And in fairness of all of our time, I think we're going to try and keep this to about, what time are we at right now? 8:15? 8 o'clock. We're going to try and hit to about 8:50, so we're going to try and get through this in respect of all of our time here. And as you've heard tonight, the Department of Parks and Rec have promised other public meetings where you're going to have your voice as well. Great, so we'll go ahead and call the first folks. David Preston, Marty Westerman, Kathy Walsh, if you could come up please. Jonathan Duncan, Judy Pickens, and Matt, is it Stiles? We'll go ahead and start right here. I'm sorry, you David? I'm Jonathan. Jonathan. Go ahead and start.
All right. I'd like to thank everybody for putting this together tonight, the FCA. Oh, hello. I'd like to thank the FCA for putting this together tonight and allowing us all to come and make our comments. The presentations were fantastic, and there's not a whole lot I can add other than I've been living in Arbor Heights about 5 years now, and regularly when I go to Lincoln Park, my wife and I look at each other and say, we live here. This is fantastic. We love the birds, we love the trees. We're not tree huggers, but I don't think this is an appropriate use of our city park. And I don't think it's I understand the park is struggling for money and they need ways to raise revenue, but I don't think this is an appropriate way to do it. And I don't think it's nearly enough for the long-term effects and the cost it's going to cause to the park for future generations. Thank you.
And when people come up, please say your name before you speak. Thank you. Marty, go ahead.
Oh, go. And also, if you can anticipate when you're going to be on and come in here and let's have no dead air in between. Okay, get real close to the microphone, too.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My comments are simply that the...
Who are you?
Oh, sorry. I'm Martin Western, and I'm an at-large board member for the Fauntleroy Community Association. 2 items. Number one is, I'd like to see the parks choose the most appropriate place for the activities that they decide to select. It sounds, from what I'm seeing so far, that they did not choose the most appropriate place, nor the most appropriate activity. So we'd like to see the parks match the activity to the place more effectively. Second, we understand that the parks need money, and we would be happy to work with the parks on coming up with lots of different ways to raise money that are more appropriate to the site and more appropriate for the neighborhood, and more appropriate for parks as well.
My name is Judy Pickens. I've lived in the community for over 40 years. I'm an active member of the Fauntleroy Watershed Council. I have worked with Seattle Parks for decades. I have worked with wonderful people, and not one of them would I have any reservations about in terms of their concern for the citizens of this city and the users of our public parks. I'm having a little bit of second thought. I hope you realize that the magnitude of this proposal is maybe more than you thought. I'd love to give you the benefit of the doubt. I would love to say 100% Seattle Parks employees are doing a great job. You asked a lot of us. You used the word partnership a lot. You asked and received thousands of hours every month from volunteers to help keep these parks from turning over into thickets and to improve the public enjoyment. I'm used to being a partner. I'm used to partnership going both ways. I would like to hear that come from this section of Seattle Parks.
Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. I don't think I could say, how I feel about the park any better than Fauntleroy Community Association has said it. But I would like to say, the people of West Seattle and specifically, Arbor Heights in this community, we're intelligent, we're committed, we're dedicated to our community, and quite frankly, I believe the approach that the Parks Department has taken has been incredibly disrespectful to this community. And I think if you wanted to partner with someone and to generate revenue for the park, you should have come to us first. Yeah.
Becky Cummings, Dave Gould, please come up to the microphone. Robert Burnham, Denise Dunn, Barbara Osteen, and Alan Hume.
I'll make this short and sweet. I'm Matt Stiles. I'm a native West Seattle person, born and raised here, 56 years this month. No, to the zip line, number one. My grandparents, my mom and dad used to take me down. Oh, okay, thanks. Anyway, my parents and grandparents used to take me down the park all the time. The park is actually only 1 mile from my house where I grew up on the 8800 block on 34th. I still to this day only live a mile away from where I actually grew up. I want to thank everybody at the FCA for telling everything, you know what I mean? I agree with all that too. So, next speaker.
Evening. I'm Bob Burnham. I live in the Kenny home. About 40 years ago, employment opportunity brought me with my family here to Fauntleroy. Some of the things that really attracted us were the natural location, but the church, the YMCA, the school. My children all went to school here. Our Boy Scout troop met here on a weekly basis. We have 4 children. When they got together with their friends in our yard, it was not a quiet place. Children have to play. Sorry, folks, if it gets on your nerve, put in double panes. I've heard a lot of good arguments against this zip line, and it may not be a very good idea. But I think there probably are some positive aspects to it. The people who came up with it are just like us. They must have had some good reasons. I think my boys would have thought it was terrific.
Hi, I'm Lady Cummings. I live in the area. I'm a forester for the Fauntleroy part of the Warren Park as part of the Green Seattle Partnership, which, by the way, did not know about the zip line. Okay, Green Seattle Partnership did not know about the zip line. I've worked with a lot of wonderful people in the park department. And I have to say that I'm sure that Charles and Rebecca are doing their jobs. But I also have to say, how could you? How could you possibly consider desecrating the gem of the Seattle Park Department, let alone West Seattle? There are other parks that are probably appropriate for a zip line activity. Don't say no zip line, but I do say no zip line in Lincoln Park. It's untenable. Cost-wise, Judy Hickens mentioned volunteers. It just so happens that in 2010, there were over 300,000 volunteer hours dedicated to the parks of Seattle by the citizens of Seattle who voted extra taxes on their property to support the parks. That's the equivalent of 256 full-time positions. The volunteers and the people of this community are more than willing to bear some weight for the cost of the parks that we love and enjoy. And I'm sure Mr. Zipline Go Ape is a pretty nice guy, but I also suggest that you go buy some land or lease it, build your own parking lot, build your own bathroom, and run your free enterprise as a private corporation, and don't come looking for public handouts.
It's interesting I should come right after that because that was exactly my time.
I'm Dave Gould, and I can tell you this project has gone on so many levels, I'm not sure where to begin. But why don't we start with the mission statement of the Seattle Parks and Recreation? There's not a damn thing in their mission statement that talks about building an amusement park or amusement park activities. If they want an amusement park, then let's build one. Not a problem. We have a good start with a Ferris wheel downtown. Add the zip line and stir it. Parking. Traffic congestion has already been mentioned. There's no place for additional cars except the adjacent neighborhoods. And I don't live within 100 feet or so, or 100 yards, but I'm sure many of you do. And I'm sure on a summer day, it's hard to park in your own backyard. We've seen some of the activities. Swimming wasn't mentioned, but most of the activities are relatively quiet, relatively calm, and all respect to your grandkids and great-grandkids. When I go to the park, I'm looking for quiet and recreation and peace. I'm not looking for yay-hoo activities. If they want to build the yay-hoo amusement park, go build the damn thing.
Dan. I'm an artist. I've lived in West Seattle for close to 25 years. I agree that this is a really, really bad idea, and I implore you just to drop this idea now. Seattle has world-class parks because of the foresight of people a long time ago who saw what the people in the future were going to need.
city is going to get a lot more crowded. Our young people are going to need nature. People need nature.
We could have Carolyn Murchie up to the microphone, Alice Larson, Linda Haupt, Martha Collard, Tom Furtzenegger, sorry Tom, and Robert Duisberg, and Carolyn Duncan.
I'm going to be quick. The other speakers have said everything that I wanted to say, so I'm going to cede my 2 minutes. And thank you very much, FCA.
Hello, my name is Alan Levine. I too agree with most of the speakers here tonight. Okay. I agree too with the speakers tonight about the zip line being a poor idea here at Lincoln Park. I relocated out here 16 years ago next month to work at the Seattle VA hospital, and Lincoln Park was actually one of the first parks I ever went to. I landed in West Seattle by chance. To me, this is a pristine, one-of-a-kind park in a crowded urban area that we really want to save. We don't want these kinds of enterprises inside of a publicly shared space. My wife and I are both psychologists, and we spend a lot of time thinking about how do we help people. I agree with the statement you made earlier. We need quiet space. We need places where we can go. We come to this park regularly to have that quiet downtime for ourselves, and frankly recommend to a lot of our patients that we work with in the community use parks for this exact same reason. So in my thinking, it's best if we leave the park as it is. I too understand the revenue piece. It seems to me that we've gotten so caught up on the 2008 recession has given us financial problems, so we have to do everything we can to fix it right away, and it's short-sighted. And that concerns me that we're not looking at the long-term picture of fiscal responsibility because we're so concerned about a short term. This is cyclical. Things will get better again. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Martha Callard, and you've stolen my thunder, folks. I applaud all that you have said. I do have one question of parks. Is it City Council that has the final word on this decision?
They approved the legislation.
Okay, that was a positive answer. So are there any City Council members here tonight? Hello, City Council. Are you listening to the people? No. And I applaud the FCA for what they did and join us. We are a splendid organization that does great things in this neighborhood.
A little short for this. I'm Lyanda Haupt. I'm a local nature writer and science writer and ambassador as well. And I don't have much to add to all the great stuff that's been said tonight, but I do want to just say one more thing about the NIMBYism argument. I have not spoken to, everyone I've spoken to is against this project in Lincoln Park. None of the people that I've spoken to are against zip lines. They look really fun. When we were in Belize, we were hiking, and my daughter, this was a couple years ago, people were zip lining and screaming over us, and in 2 years she has not stopped us. She's saying, I can't believe you didn't let me go on the zip line. And the other day when I told her about this project in Lincoln Park, she said, Mom, she's been birding with me in Lincoln Park since she was a baby. She said, she didn't say, woohoo! She said, Mom, that would ruin the park. From a 13-year-old, maybe we would rather have our kids playing, hanging out on zip lines than playing Nintendo, but Lincoln Park is not the right place for this zip line and this project. This is a refugia for wildlife and by extension, a rare, rare urban forest and sanctuary for humans as well. And we are longing to keep it that way, and we will. Thank you.
My name is Robert Duisberg. I'm with the West Seattle Community Orchestras. I want to thank you, Mr. Ammon and Mrs. Lewis, for being here with us. And I want to say that I really applaud the partnerships program. I mean, these are difficult times, and you're trying to make ends meet, and you're being resourceful. resourceful and creative and responsive, and that's terrific. The thing that troubles me is that there are parks and there are parks. I mean, running a concession, renting boats at Green Lake is a terrific idea. It works. Selling hot dogs at Cal Anderson Park. And there are parks and there are parks. And I think that what hasn't been appreciated, and this is reflected in what has been reported about the selection process, that you ask the concessionaires to say, which would you like? If that is true, I mean, I don't know, I just read what I read, then there, as many people have said, Lincoln Park is a remarkable place. It is not so much a city park as Cal Anderson is, or Green Lake, or Woodland Park even. It is, in fact, a de facto nature preserve. The fact that we have breeding raptors, the fact that we have protected species, actual, indicator species, that will be driven out of the park by this kind of activity in the canopy. There's no question about it, and there's plenty of science backing that. In other words, some things haven't been considered. And again, zip lines are cool. I went on them in Costa Rica, over a canyon. That was pretty wild. There are other locations, the so-called jungle up over the freeway. But the city is developing that. It's going to turn into a nice area. And it doesn't have a noise problem because it's above the freeway. There's great trees. It's a great slope. There's some resources there. Another possible location is the backside of, above South Park, the Duwamish Green Space. There are other locations. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. I also want to thank our hosts, and I want to thank you guys for coming tonight. I want to echo what everybody else said, in terms of opposition to this project in this place. I also think ziplines seem cool. I think, it looks like fun. I watched your video. I would take my daughter, I would take my work group to a zipline that runs a commercial activity on private property, but not here, for all the reasons that everyone has described. And I just want to have one brief call to arms, which is that I think ultimately this is going to be a political process. So let's engage it as a political process, and I want to challenge our hosts a little bit, and I want to challenge representatives from whatever organization you all are a part of. Do your due diligence, but do it quickly and reach a decision as an organization about whether you're for or against this, and speak out. Is the FCA for or against this? Is the Morgan Junction group for or against this? Is the Watershed group for or against this? Let's speak out as organizations. That's how this decision is going to get made. Thanks.
Yes.
So I'm Carolyn Duncan. I'm on the board. I live across the street from Lincoln Park, and I also work at King County. I helped staff the King County Parks business planning process in 2002, and that led to the department working on a business plan where they could be more entrepreneurial. And they raised $5 million a year now to help supplement the parks budget. And currently, I'm helping staff the King County Parks Levy Task Force. I was with them today, and they were hearing the dismal news about how long it's going to take for the economy to get back up where it needs to be. My point in sharing that is that I understand the new economy means park systems at all levels of government have to do things differently. I know budgets are cut, and the elected leaders have to make some very painful choices as they juggle many worthy priorities. And it's very hard work for the staff. It's a new way of operating. However, there are many considerations when choosing revenue-generating activities, and that includes compatibility with the park, traffic and other impacts on park users, and neighbors, and open and transparent public process. I was aware of the downside of living next to a park or across the street from a park and near the ferry terminal when I bought my house, but the positives of Lincoln Park outweigh the negatives. Thousands of cars use Fauntleroy Way to use the ferry and the park. When people walk on the ferry, many park in the Lincoln Park parking lot and in the neighborhood. Fauntleroy Way is 2 lanes, one each way, and it is shared by bicycles and cars, and delivery trucks going into Vashon Island. Adding hundreds of additional visitors to Lincoln Park in their cars and probably in tourist buses would create a nightmare of gridlock and more danger for bike riders and pedestrians. My other concern is that urban forests are precious and rare. Some days when I walk the park, it feels like the Discovery Channel. There are so many birds and other wildlife. To even put the words "Go Ape" in the same sentence as an Olmsted Park is jarring. The tranquility of the trails, the sounds of kids playing ball, and families picnicking would be lost as hundreds of people scream and whoop their way through the Go Ape course daily. The park as it is priceless, but to change it so dramatically for what seems like a pittance of $65,000 a year doesn't seem right. I hope you're able to drop this proposal. It does not fit the values of the majority of Lincoln Park users or the neighborhood.
Thank the Fauntleroy Community Association for making this. I agree with everybody in opposition of the zip line. I will do everything to have it not go to Lincoln Park. My family will do everything we can to stop that from going into Lincoln Park. Every neighbor I know will do everything they can to stop it from going into Lincoln Park.
Microphone, Chris Wood, Mike Mahoney, Brian Dunbar, Bill Byers, Marvin Paul Webster, and Irene Hoskin, please.
Hello, my name is Mark Buchanan, and I'd just like to say that, Lincoln Park is a sanctuary. It was always meant to be a sanctuary. It was never meant to be an amusement park. I'm sure that if we just moved the zip line up in front of the $1 million homes in Alki, they'd have no problem with it there, would they?
Hello, my name is Chris Wood, and I've lived here for 50 years in the same house, which is right across the street from Lincoln Park. And over this time, we have watched a big change in 1956 to now. And Lincoln Park is no place for a zip line. And you want the zip line right to end right where the house is, and with all that noise and all that parking, you want them to come for 2 hours. They're not going to come for 2 hours. You don't visit Lincoln Park and do that and leave. They stay. And the parking is an absolute nightmare. Even last week on the 4th of July, parking, they're everywhere, and it's very frustrating for them when they can't find a parking spot. And it's very dangerous. Lots of fender benders and accidents. Don't put the zip line in Lincoln Park for wild animals. Don't do that to them. It's so neat to see them. And that's the eagles and the hawks. And we have a red fox that comes out at 8:30 every night. You can set your clock by. I'm going to start talking. That clock can go by. So don't put it in.
Good evening, my name is Brian Dunbar. I grew up in this neighborhood. When I was in grade school, eating lunch, it was in this room right here. I am now living in the house that my father built before I was born, raising my kids in that same house. We often go to Lincoln Park, even in the wintertime. Put our coats on, it snows, we go down to the park. After that big windstorm 4 or 5 years ago, we went down to the park. But everyone has been talking, and I agree completely with the environmental impact, the neighborhood impact. What I want to address is the lack of transparency in the Seattle Parks Department. Anyone in this room knows that whatever project you get into your plumbing project under the kitchen sink, the further you're into it, the harder it is to walk away. The Seattle Parks Department has been in this project for 11 to 12 months now. It's going to be even harder and harder for them to walk away from this partnership. They gave the keys over to Go Ape. They said, what location would you like? It's up for grabs. The thing I want the Parks Department and the city to know is that in the past 2 weeks, this is the spur of the moment attendance at this meeting. I'm sure it's going to be huge next week at the Morgan Street meeting. It's my understanding that just last night there were 30 people who gathered at CMP Coffee for a Facebook meeting. We need to jump on it now and stop this before it goes any further, because it's harder to get anyone. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Mahaney, and I'm actually a new resident to the neighborhood. I've been here about 20 years now. And we moved here because of the community, and we moved here because of Lincoln Park, and we live 2 blocks away. And when I heard about this a couple of weeks ago, I was absolutely shocked and devastated that the Seattle Parks Department, who I guess mistakenly thought were here to help protect the parks of Seattle, was springing this on us. And I'm still in shock 2 weeks later. And I'm an old guy, I'm not shocked easily. And I've had a lot of ups and downs, but I'm still shocked that you guys are doing this. And lastly, it's not just Lincoln Park, but I think this zip line doesn't belong in any of the Seattle parks. Yeah.
My name is Bill Byers. I live on Beach Drive. I lived there all my life. And I go in Lincoln Park every day. To me, the biggest issue here is the McGinn administration's failure to somehow have a planning framework that looks to parks like Lincoln Park and creates citizens committees that visualize how we're going to manage this park. We have no framework. There's 200 people put on ad hoc basis have come out tonight to speak about a proposal that's had no due diligence with the citizens of this community. That is absolutely astounding to me as a taxpayer of this city, that we could have such poor management from the top in the city government.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly agree with the wonderful presentation by the Fauntleroy Community Association.
250 people in comments. That's a great turnout tonight. Joanne Cheyenne, Waukee, Jeff Bayou, Karen Richter, Kathy Weirather, Kitty Craig, and S.J. Hebert.
When I moved to West Seattle about 30 years ago, there was a little old man and a little old lady who walked by my house every night to Lincoln Park. And they walked through the park every day until they died. And their family put benches in the park because they loved the park that much. A few years ago, I saw an incredible path through the park, Lincoln Park. There had been a mud bike race. I called up the heads of the Parks Department and said, mud bikes in Lincoln Park in the winter? Those trails are still there. You can still see the signs 5, 6, 7 years later where mud bikes went through Lincoln Park. I don't get it. You folks are the stewards of the park. Could you be that wrong?
My name is Kathy Weirather. I live in West Seattle. I moved to the Gatewood community about 6 years ago. I frequent Lincoln Park often. I walk my dogs there. I enjoy other people walking their dogs, seeing the kids play, even on the cute little zip line. That's cute for the little kids. That's a lot of fun. But that's where it ends.
There you go.
The professor mentioned earlier that we go there for to gather our thoughts, mental health. I personally enjoy that a lot. When I'm struggling with day-to-day life, that's the one place that I always think to go. I love the trees. I love the dampness on my face, the smell of the forest. It's an oasis in our own community, and not every community can say that. I'm really grateful to live here. I'm curious, for a show of hands, how many people are opposed to having a zip line in Lincoln Park?
Everybody!
Well, we want to be fair, so who supports the zip line in Lincoln Park? Is there anybody that's sitting on the fence still about that? Okay. Thank you.
My name's Karen Richter. I've only been here 19 years, so I guess I'm a newcomer too. I'm a planner. I just retired. And I came to Seattle because of Seattle's reputation as leading our country in excellent planning. Excellent planning. We have a national reputation for that. When I heard about this proposal and what the Parks Department did without any public participation, I was shocked, because that's not the Seattle way of doing things. We talk to people, we hear things, we're a grassroots community, and this is the antithesis of what's happened. So I'm ashamed of our Parks Department.
Hi there, my name is Kitty Craig. I was born and raised in Fauntleroy, and I'm now raising my own family here as well. And I spend nearly every day in Lincoln Park, rain or shine, any kind of weather. I've seen many faces here or there as well. I think my number one concern with this process so far has been the lack of due process and public involvement. And as a planner by trade as well, it's appalling to think that even though now you say you have one public meeting and 2 more months to make a decision, that's an appalling lack of public process. You should have at least a minimum of a year and much more opportunity for public input and involvement, even to just tweak a proposal that could actually happen. So that, I see no opportunity for that in the next 3 to 4 months, just simply how slowly things happen in terms of government and how things move forward. I also just want to bring to light that I think Seattle voters have never voted down a parks levy. We are highly supportive of our parks. And I'm sure, despite economic times, cities across the nation are voting for parks and land conservation. So I understand the call for partnerships and the need to bring more revenue into the department, but we know that Seattle in particular is incredibly invested in the park system and appreciative of open space. And we would pay, I'm sure you could probably raise $65,000 in this room today to support keeping Lincoln Park as it is. And finally, I just want to say I was at the park, I think it was Friday morning with my 2-year-old daughter, and it was mayhem with all the day camps there. And it was mayhem on that south end of the park, and I just needed to get to the north end, up to the quiet woods, and it was a relief. Not that I will send my own kid to day camp, but I loved it as a kid. But the silence and the solace and the tranquility is a huge part of the activity.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hebert, and we've been in West Seattle for 8 years, and I did a little research on this project before coming in, and one, I support that it doesn't happen in Lincoln Park. I don't think it's appropriate for many reasons, but the values, the number one value on the Go Ape website, the very first thing they say is, we're doing our part to keep the adventure in adventure. We believe that zero risk equals zero development, and we're always looking to challenge people, to surprise and excite them. Well, I think you've noticed that you've challenged us as a community, and we are ready to stand for what we believe in. And the risk is just huge. I live 1 block up from Fauntleroy. There are no sidewalks east of Fauntleroy up to California Street. And the streets are not even wide enough to accommodate a line down the middle. There are no sidewalks, no line down the middle, and 2 cars drive both directions. My child walks down those streets with me to the park, along with a ton of other people who are bicycling and walking that direction all the time. And any overflow parking comes onto our street, which then makes that not even 2-lane street, not even 1-lane street. It's impossible to accommodate. And while I don't agree with the numbers the Fauntleroy Center put up for 750 extra people a day, if you do the numbers, it's 252 people with maximum capacity, half-hour segments, 14 people each. If only half those people drove cars, that's 170 plus cars extra a day on a weekend. And it is impossible to accommodate that in the blocks around our community. So, tell us.
I don't want the zip line.
Get up here, maybe give it a minute because we want to respect everybody's time here. So Thomas Quinn, Bob Vaniza, Ajita Farmer, Heather McKay, and James Weiner.
I'm Jeff Vayu. I live up the hill from Fauntleroy, Fauntleroy Way. I've lived up the hill from Lincoln Park for 10 years. How sad. How sad that it comes to this. But thank goodness our founding fathers provided us with this opportunity to speak our piece. We need to unite together, and we need to continue to speak our piece in the way our founding fathers have directed us, unlike the way the process has worked so far. I'm a financial executive in nonprofit healthcare. Tell me about balancing budgets. We have to be creative every single day, and we have very sizable numbers, and we're dealing with patients' lives. We refuse to give up the fight to be creative, and we refuse to impact our patients negatively. For those of us in the social work arena, sometimes you hear us talking about the suicide prevention lines that we have. And one of the most common lines we have when we're talking to suicide potential victims is that you have a short-term problem. This is a permanent solution. Let's not cause suicide with our park, with a permanent solution to a short-term problem.
My name is Bob Venezia. I live across from Lincoln Park, and maybe the most encouraging thing I heard tonight from the Parks Department was that no decision has been made. Yeah. But you've been meeting for a year with this party, and so one cannot feel like that when you were finally going to present it to the public, that we were starting at ground zero and it could go 50-50. You've already got this huge investment in meeting with this partner, and you've been going on for a year with no transparency. And so I really do hope that you mean that no decision has been made. Thank you.
My name is Heather McKay, and I really appreciate you coming. And I want to speak tonight as a mother. I have a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old son. And yes, they play very loud in our yard. They're rambunctious. They need a lot of activity. But we go to the park almost every day. And we spend a lot of time in silence in the park. We've poked our way up every creek in that park. And we might as well be in the middle of the Olympics. It's pretty remarkable. And this is no lie. It is a neighborhood activity now to have all the little kids in the neighborhood take their bikes, and we either go into the park and watch the eagles, and this is nearly every night of the week during the summer. We've been in the park to watch the baby eagle, or all the little kids want to go under the tree where the male owl is nesting and find owl pellets. And this is their amusement. And children today in cities, I'm also a teacher, and I know that children today in cities depend on this kind of amusement. They are desperate for it, whether they know it or not. And they're desperate to know that fun can be created for free. My children now know that fun can be created with water and sticks and rocks, and they're desperate to know that. And they're desperate to know that adults can create fun stringing a slack line between two of the trees in Lincoln Park. That fun does not have to be paid for. It does not have to be manufactured.
Right.
And that fun doesn't have to be fast-paced and loud. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And this is one of the few places in the city, this, Seward Park, Coal Creek Park, Discovery Park, those are some of the few places in the city where nature really does hold sway. And those places have so much to teach our children. We're desperate for our children to learn this. They need to be stewards of this earth. And I am going to be incapable of teaching my children to be that if I can't take them into a park for silence and to really know their surroundings. So please preserve this for them and for mothers like me and for teachers like me who want to teach children this side of life. Thank you.
Jada, and this is my sister Solon. And we go to the park like almost every like with my papa and nana. And when we go there, we like to like walk on the trails and explore sort of. And we go on. There's already a zip line there that's free that you can just ride on for fun. So I put another one in when there's already one in
Me and my papa and my sister, we go like in the trails, and we go there to have fun and not for people to be like yelling and screaming. And when we go there, if we have to like people are gonna be going above us and stuff, and they're gonna like be yelling. So we want like quietness in the park, not a bunch of screaming, and like it's like kind of ruining the park.
My name is James Lennard. I have my two children here today, and many people spoke eloquently in terms of the many reasons that this zip line shouldn't happen. Two of the points that particularly struck me were the mental health worker, the BA, who spoke on the importance of solitude and peace, and the professor who spoke on the importance of solitude and peace. I think if the park department fails, and I use the word fail on purpose, if you fail to understand the importance of solitude and peace, the money, quite frankly, I think you've lost a chunk change of $65,000 as compared to the cumulative mental health of everyone in this room. It's an absolute failure. If you look at those things, at the end of the day, my wife says, you need a run. After a stressful day and I come home, can I be a better man to those children? The quantifiable $65,000 is a chunk change as compared to what we've lost in this community if this line exists.
Charles Austin, Stewart, and David Whiting.
Hello, I'm Tom Quinn, and I have an observation that public-private partnerships always seem to leave the public without the resource and holding the bag of debt. Remember the Kingdom blew it to smithereens 10 years ago and we're still paying for it. I say no monkey business in the park.
Hi, my name is Natasha Kogler, and I moved here 3 years ago from LA, and I'm an executive with a Fortune 500 company. And I've done a number of multi-million-dollar deals, and first of all, I must say, shame on you. After a year of due diligence, you bring a business plan that's going to get $65,000. How much have your salaries cost in the past year of due diligence? Shame on you. This line is only about Vegas. If you really want to do something impactful, then look and partner with the citizens of this community. I'm sure they have many other ideas that will bring more than $65,000. I wouldn't be opposed to charging for a small fee for parking, which is a lot what LA parks do. You could raise a hell of a lot more than $65,000. Perhaps you're looking at your own job security
Good evening, I'm Charles Austin. I'm with the Activities Department in McKinney. I'm not speaking for the Kenny, I'm speaking as a private citizen that lives here in West Seattle. I take care of your mothers and your grandmothers and your great-grandmothers that have grown up with their parents in the Kenny. I drive the bus that takes them to all the places that they go to. I can drive all the way out to North Bend if I want a forest experience, or I can drive 4 blocks down the street and take my Alzheimer patients and my dementia patients back to 1941 when they used to walk through that park. They remember it. Experience their mind, it makes them happy. They love to see the wildlife there. They can't get that anyplace else. One of the original female lifeguards from 1941 lives in the canyon. And she talks about it all the time. She's just happy as heck to tell you all about it. Don't take this away from your parents or your great-grandchildren yet to be born.
My name is David Whiting. I'm another newcomer. I've only been in West Seattle for about 20 years. I'm formerly the board president for Earth Corps, which is the largest environmental restoration organization in the county. I put in about 100 hours at Lincoln Park as what the volunteer hours in trail restoration and erosion control measures. I'm not going to restate some of the eloquent objections that other people have made earlier in the day, but I will say one thing that hasn't been mentioned is that, yes, the Parks Department does have a dual mission statement to both protect the resources as well as provide recreational opportunities. And in these days, we are looking and seeing different types of activities used in our parks. And I look at kids who are now using the parks for skateboarding, bicycle polo, and the Parks Department was responding to the citizens and the recreation communities who wanted to see how those activities could be accommodated in existing facilities, and put in sweat equity, and put in dollars and cents oftentimes, in a long, involved process. But on this case, I see the Parks Department didn't go to the recreations and say, what do you want? What would you like to do? But instead you went to the developers of these, the concessionaires, the vendors. And I think that's kind of a ass backwards to think that you made those kids in Ballard work, all that time to get a skateboard park. But on the other hand, for this, for $65,000 a year, you pimped out our parks. And that's pretty simple.
I just wanted to say there's a lot of emotions flying here. One of my dearest friends was here the day she heard about the zipline. She never slept that night. It was that upsetting. This whole community is in an uproar. They're so upset. Don't torture us with dragging this out on decision making. Let's drop this. We all and let's move on to a plan that's going to work. Bottom line is, we don't want it. There's so many more people that aren't here tonight that didn't even know about this. I just found about it last minute. So please, like I said, let's not, we're busy people. For us to have to follow this and come to more meetings, it's already been said tonight. Everything that needs to be said from the most heartful place, from people who deeply, deeply love and are connected to the exquisite nature of Lincoln Park. We've spoken our hearts. Don't forget what we said tonight. Drop it now. Let's move on to a new plan that works.
And if we could get Janet Backman and Cindy Barker, please.
My name is Stuart Wexler. I've been pulling weeds in Lincoln Park as a volunteer for 12 years, sharing my passion and knowledge for nature with passersby, and leading a few nature walks like the owl walks there too. one of the main reasons we have this problem today is that it is a linguistics problem. There are some people think that the word park means a natural area, to others a park could mean a ballpark or a lawn with a few scattered trees. I once went to a hearing with the superintendent of parks. Oh yeah, I went to the parks, I loved the parks as a kid. Turns out those parks were ballparks. We now have a city department that administers all three kinds of so-called parks. We need to tell the mayor and the city council that we need the natural areas to be administered by someone who has a demonstrated love of nature and some knowledge of nature that reports directly to the mayor. Thank you.
I'm Cindy Barker from, several of us are here from the Morgan Community Association, so the timing of this is good. I want to start by saying I'm going to disagree with, I don't know who the gentleman is who said, what's SCA's position? What's MOCA's position? It is not important. I just spent the 4th of July in Philadelphia, and for citizen activists, it was surprisingly emotional. You have to speak to your representatives. Do not just depend on community associations. There are only two. There are many of you, and no matter what your position is, you need to speak it. So please go home and do that. So what we're going to have at our community association meeting is a presentation actually from parks. So what I hope you take away from this is you have heard many, many questions in a lot of ways. You heard that, please just drop it. If you could come tell us that, you're going to do cool. But if you don't, we need to hear the answers to people are saying, what were you thinking? We need you to take all these kind of frequently asked questions and address them. And then also be more transparent about the things we haven't heard yet, like, is Parks or Go Ape discussing this with cruise lines, and are we going to have to deal with buses rather than cars? Just those sort of things that we are starting to feel like if we don't ask you, we're not going to hear it. We have to keep go burrowing for it. So transparency is really important. And the other thing we really need to see is, as we know, Parks doesn't do anything in a void. You have a timeline. You need to disclose that timeline. And when you think you're going to go to City Council, because there sure better not be a year of your work and a month of our public comment. There better be a balance to this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Janet Bachman, and I've been living in Fauntleroy for 50 years, raised on Alpine. I'm against this type of commercialism in our parks. I remember when the Parks Department put the play area in the south end of the park. They said they would not remove any trees. When they finished resculpturing the area, 7 large old-growth trees were damaged and had to be removed. Now they're talking about even 25 trees. When these people are done, we will have a very barren area in our park. Please tell me what financial gain we will be promised for the loss of 25 trees and 10 acres of prime forest, which can never be replaced. I feel the people of West Seattle had better get busy and look for a new mayor, a new city council. Who will respect and protect what little public parks we will have left when this commercial venture is finished. If they do not fulfill their responsibility for oversight of the Parks Department. Thank you very much.
Wraps it up with a comment period. We did have one comment from somebody who came up to me, one of our mature neighbors, who mentioned that her opportunity to get out into the woods is at Lincoln Park, and she feels that she may not have that opportunity if this happens. So I wanted to point that out as well. Bruce?
I'd like to invite Deb Barker, who is president of the MOCA Community Association, the Morgan Community Association, and to tell us about your meeting next week.
Thank you so much, Bruce. I'm Deb Barker. I'm president
of the Morgan Community Association. We were approached months ago by you guys about being on our meeting agenda. That didn't work out, so for the April meeting, you are going to be on our next, we meet quarterly, so our meeting is, it's in your calendar, July 18th, that's a Wednesday. We meet at the Kenny, and just to let you know, I do have a very full agenda that evening. We will be having a briefing on the combined sewer overflow at Longman Beach, which is the north end of Lincoln Park. For those of you who are interested in hearing about that process, the comment period is actually open for that project, so we will be getting a briefing on that. We'll also be getting a briefing on the rapid ride status, and we will be having a presentation from the High Queen, and then we are devoting the hours starting at 8 until 9-ish to the Seattle Parks Department to have a presentation about their proposal, and we'll give you at least half an hour, I promise. So you all will have a PowerPoint you indicated and handouts. We'll look forward to that. This is at the Kenny in meeting room 2 next Wednesday night. Not tomorrow, but yes, ma'am.
I would suggest you get rooms 1 and 3. See,
I was thinking, I've been making notes about meeting rooms and microphones, and I'm going to probably have to kick bingo out to get meeting rooms 2 and 3. I'll see what I can pull. So, or we'll do bingo together.
We're with you on that.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody coming out to the Fauntleroy Community Association. You guys have put on an excellent presentation, and it's nice to see people showing up for their community association, because I'm sure a lot of meetings are kind of quiet. So everybody, please participate. Thank you.
Hey, Deb. A lot of meetings are a little quiet, so we'd like you to participate more. We're going to be done in just a few minutes. I don't want anyone to leave the room. I see a few people leaving, but if you can hang in just a few more minutes, I promised the Parks Department people that they could come up and say a couple of words. If no, okay. Okay.
I just encourage you to go to our website. We're putting up new material all the time. It would just take too long. There's still misinformation that was presented, and we'd like to give you the straight facts and give it to you straight. So hopefully we'll have more opportunity to do some of that at the Morgan meeting. But check our website, and please mark your calendars. August 11th so far is a public meeting. If that changes, there'll be announcements on our Parks website as well. So.
Thank you. We're glad we heard about this sort of through the grapevine, and glad that we invited you, because we discovered you've been working on it quite a while and haven't come to the table yet. So you are ready? Okay. Okay, you are now. So please come to the table, and that's great. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I've been very proud of the Fauntleroy Community Association over all these years. We worked very well with city agencies, the county, the state with the ferry system, and all this. And we've overcome a whole lot of obstacles. Ferry expansion and highway out on Fauntleroy, we even had a number on 163, I think. And we've overcome a lot of things. So I guess I don't want to leave the room without very respectfully asking if you, at this point, have heard enough from the community that you can go back to who you work for or whatever and report that the tide's coming in and it doesn't look very good. It's going to keep on coming. And are you at the point, perhaps, where you could cut this off and save time, money, etc.?
Off at any time. That's why when I said the decision hasn't been made, I really meant it. It hasn't. Part of the year long hasn't been just talking to Go Ape. It's also talking internally again with our arborist, with GSP. I'm surprised that the woman didn't know from GSP, because actually Mark Mead, who is head of GSP, was part of the evaluation team. So we've been trying to do internally look at this. As I said, if we brought every potential project out to the public, we'd be spending a lot of hours for no reason. So we wanted to make sure that we had something to present before we came out here. So.
Thank you, and we thank you very much for coming tonight. And we do, let's have a round of applause for the Parks and Rec.
The individual from GSP that I spoke with today is their key liaison with the Seattle Parks Department. And from Forterra. Forterra is a backbone of the Green Seattle Partnership. It was formerly the Cascade Land Conservancy. They coordinate volunteers, they work with Earth Corps, and they raise money, which is contributed to the Seattle Parks Department. And the main focus is habitat restoration. And she didn't know about it.
I'd also like to mention that we think we've recorded everything tonight. We know that there were 3 TV stations, maybe 4 here. Newspapers have been here, the West Seattle Blog has been here, and thank you, you guys have done that. And so we're going to turn everything we have over to the Parks Department so they have a record of it too, and can sort of share it with your family. And so I just want to make everyone aware of that. I also want to guide you to the Fauntleroy.net website. It's new, it's fresh, it's alive. There's things happening on there, so please check it out, Fauntleroy.net. And Fauntleroy Facebook. I'd like you to go there and like us on Facebook. Then I'd like you to join the Fauntleroy Community Association. We have this wonderful area, and we only have a great neighborhood and this great turnout. We have less than 300 paid members. It's only $2,500 a year. Or well, we got to pay for the school building sometimes. It's only $25 per household per year, and there's a senior rate. And we'll take $2,500. Anyway, I'd like you to join the Fauntleroy Community Association, and in back you'll see some brochures, and you can do it, and you can go online and find out our address and send in a check. So, then I want to thank again Tuxedos and Tennis Shoes Catering for making this wonderful venue available. And I think that's it. I'd like to thank you all very much for coming, and we'll keep you engaged and let you know what's coming up. Thank you. Have a great evening.